What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I am here with Peter Ariz. We are live at the home of the Hurricanes, Duffy's Tavern. Saturday, watch party. If you're not up in Tally, I'll be up in Tally. P will be down here. If you guys are down here in Miami, the place you want to be is the home of the Hurricanes, right at the edge of Coral Gables, Duffy's Tavern. They've seen about 50 of these Miami FSU games, a lot of wins, more wins than losses, that's for sure, more championships than not in that rivalry, and that's all been here at Duffy's Tavern, the home of the Hurricanes. So make sure Saturday, you're going to have all the TVs, the whole setup out there. Check it out at Duffy's. As always, if you've been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, you're hopped in. How are you feeling?
Feeling good, man. I don't think there's anyone better to kind of talk about the history of this rivalry with than our good friend Steve Kim, who will be joining us here in just a second, as he does every Thursday. So excited to, kind of talk about some of the things of the past from that one. I don't know. We'll talk about it with him in a second, but I used the Larry Coker, Bobby Bowden picture as the thumbnail in his honor. So I want to get his thoughts on that in just a second. Sorry for the, little bit of a delay here, but I think it's perfect timing. So we're here now at the illustrious Duffy's Tavern.
Yeah, man. So without further ado, he's ready. Let's hop him in. You know who he is. The one, the only, Steve Canine Kim.
Gentlemen, good Thursday to you. Oh, it's time. It's getting close there, fellas.
What was your first one of these?
The first, it's interesting. The first Florida State-Miami game that I really noticed was in 1986. Now, Miami and I were just kind of dating at that point, but that was the game, and I think it was a week or two after the Oklahoma victory, which I absolutely watched every minute of that game. That's the infamous coin toss. But the 86 game is Florida State comes into Miami, and for about 2.5, 3 quarters, they had a great Miami team, really off balance. And I remember one play, Bobby Bowden, he called up one of his Rooskies. They sent the kickoff over to one side, and the guy takes 2 steps, throws the ball all across the field to Dexter Carter, who took it about 90 yards. And I think Miami was actually losing that game late into the third, early fourth quarter, and then the Miami talent took over, a couple of big throws from Vinny Testaverde. And it's really then from that point on, guys, from 87 to about 1994, it was the most impactful, most important rivalry in college sports, because basically the winner of that game had an inside track for the national title. So Miami was on really 2 interesting arcs in that era. They had the greatest national rivalry with Notre Dame, which was incredibly heated. In fact, there was downright hatred. Then Florida State and Miami was probably the best interstate rivalry in America at that point. And then both of them had national championship implications in that era.
Yeah, you hear about Auburn and Alabama. That was not, at least in my lifetime, I was born in 85. That was not a national championship type deal until recently. And even then, it's not every single year. Maybe Ohio State, Michigan, probably a little closer as far as national prestige. But Steve, Notre Dame's done as far as Miami's concerned.
Yeah.
Florida's done. The last one left on the list to get crossed out here. We'll just jump right into this game. I know we'll get into history naturally as we talk about it, but I thought of you because I was thinking of boxing analogies, and I know you have one on hand. They're going to come out and hit us early. We've not been down all year. We have not been on the road all year. I'm worried about that first flurry. Do you see it that way? I know over time we're the better team. That tends to equal out over time. But how do you see this one, just the flow of this game?
Well, I had a sinking feeling, and I think I told everyone that would listen to me last week. I believe that UVA was an incredible trap game for Florida State. I actually like Virginia. They're a good team. They're one bad throw into the end zone of being undefeated and in the top 15. By the way, they play Louisville this Saturday. That's a game I'm keeping my eye on. That's going to have ACC implications. It was a Friday night prime time. They're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the first ACC loss that they handed Warwick Dunn and Danny Cannell that season. We're literally at the 1-inch line, and I knew that game was going to be tough. And I want to tell you this again. I hate playing rivalry games where the team comes in off a loss, because now you got an extra sense of not only just desperation, but real motivation. This is still a primetime game. And one factor I don't think people are talking enough about, guys, we are staying in the state of Florida till November 1st, right? This is still our first road game of the year. It's a little bit different. Your whole body clock has to change, the mechanisms and the way you get to the game, the preparation. I'm with you there, Danny. The first 5 to 10 minutes, Miami has to just stabilize that game. Don't get caught up. Trust your eyes. Play to the coaching, play to the scheme. Don't give anything big or explosive, and do your best by the end of the first quarter to at least be even or just continually play from ahead.
Steve, before we get into Pete, I got to ask you, we know how this is going to end ultimately with the talent discrepancy and Noel fans leaving that stadium sad. Those Noel fans who are watching this show, maybe they're in the South Florida area and they need a liquor store to drown away their sorrows after they take their second loss of the year. Where should they go? Well,
first of all, we want to let you know this fine sponsor that we have every week that makes this segment possible is Jensen Sunset Corners, our good friend. Shout out to the Cruises. And guys, on game days at Miami Hard Rock Stadium, before you head to the greatest stadium in college football, make sure your tailgate is loaded up and ready. Jensen's Sunset Corners has you covered with all the best wine and spirits. And if you come in rocking your gear on game days at Hard Rock Stadium, where the Miami Hurricanes play in front of the greatest fans in the world, 10% off non-sale items. So rep the U. Again, that's game days at Hard Rock Stadium for the Hurricanes. Wear your gear. Could be pro player, starter, Nike, Adidas. 10% off. The address, 8701 72nd Street, Miami, Florida.
There you go. Shout out to the Cruises, like you said. Shout out to Sunset Corners, Steve. You were talking about first road game and that it's a factor. And I actually was talking about it with our friend Amon the other day, as he comes on with us every Tuesday. I think last week when I talked to him, I don't know if it was this week or last week that I brought it up with him, but I almost think the fact that this is the first road game though plays into our favor in that aspect a little bit, because I think you have a heightened sense here. The guys, I think, are they're chomping at the bit to get on the road almost. And this is what I brought up to Amon, and he agreed with me that, yes, obviously the friendly confines of Hard Rock are great and the players love that routine. But I think for as much adrenaline as they're naturally going to have in the rivalry matchup, I think they're going to be on point knowing that it is a road game and they're excited for it. They're ready for it. I don't think it's something that they're concerned about.
You know what great road teams do? They dominate from the beginning. And it reminds me of one of the first stories I ever read about the Miami swagger. That everyone talks about. I'll never forget reading. It was the 1985 Sports Illustrated. It was the one with Ozzie Smith on the cover during the World Series when they played the Royals. And they actually wrote a story about how Miami invaded Owen Field at Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the number one team. And basically, the story said Jerome Brown and the fellas told Jimmy Johnson and the staff, hey, fellas, guys, coaches, stay in the locker room. We're going to do the warm-ups. Just don't even do anything. And basically, the story said the Miami players, from the time they stepped on the field for warm-ups, basically taunted and terrorized everybody, from the players to the opposing coaches to the peanut vendors. In fact, Brian Bosworth wrote a whole chapter on Miami, and he wrote, I've never seen a team act the way they did on our home turf, and it kind of intimidated us. And that's where the mystique began. It is a mindset, guys. When you go on the road, people talk about it being a business trip. Guys, this is football. It's a game. I don't think it's just business. It has to be more than that. And you have to go out there from the very beginning and command the crowd. Now, the one thing that does worry me, and someone did explain to me, it wasn't even so much about the crowd noise or anything. There was a stretch of time from the USF to the Florida game. We had 8 pre-snap penalties on the offensive line. That is inexcusable. Now we're going into a road environment. We may have to go to a silent count. I don't know if that actually helps us, because someone told me that said, Steve, Our issues on the O-line are really not ours. It's the referees will not call penalties on the simulated fake snap counts these teams are running. So maybe that becomes an advantage, but that's one thing that's going to be a little bit different along the offensive front. You got to clean that up. And I would think that with Coach Cristobal Mirabel, that was a point of emphasis the last, 13, 14 days.
Steve, I saw Ruben Bain. He's been talking a lot. You saw the notepad, right? He was, when USF got smoked, he said Cinderella story over. He was laughing at FSU after they lost. Some people are saying that that's distracting. I heard some people kind of questioning it. You were around, I've seen this more going back. You were around more for like, see Jerome Brown and kind of how he got down and some of those guys. Do you think Ruben Bain, that energy right at the tip of the spear where your best player, one of your biggest, more physical players has that kind of mentality as opposed to just being one of these five-star kind of soft guys that we've had in the past potentially? How does that trickle down when you have a guy like that, you who's seen Miami defensive linemen with this attitude?
You know what it speaks to? I believe it is the difference between much of the fan base, which has had PTSD for about, 20 some odd years, compared to the actual confidence within the building. I don't think there's any doubt that within that building that they have a great belief that this could be a national championship contender. Meanwhile, people like us, we've been let down many, many times. This is an interesting game, guys. I thought the game actually got a little bit more difficult once Florida State lost, because now they are fighting for their playoff lives. Hey, look, you could lose a game or two now and make the playoffs. I'm not so sure you could do that if you're Florida State coming off a 2-10 season in the ACC. Now, a lot of things are at play here. I want to make a comment, and I know Mario Cristobal has a mantra. We try to go 1-0 each week. That's his mantra, 1-0. I look at the schedule and the way it's playing out, and I realize football is a week-to-week sport, and what may be true on October 2nd or 3rd may not be true November 15th. You get out of this clean and you win this game, I think Miami might go 12-0 in the regular season, fellas. I'll put it out there right now.
Print the shirts.
Yes, 15-0. I got those, by the way.
Bringing up this comment here, which is something that I laughed at. Green Tree All-American says Mario has to release an injury report today because, of course, it's new ACC protocols. And from what I understand, obviously it's year one of this, right? But from the people that I've spoken to at Miami, as long as you're not saying a player is out and then plays, then that you're not really going to get in trouble there. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of vague questionables or doubtfuls there.
Probables.
Probables.
He's breathing.
I think
he has a heartbeat.
So the wording is going to be interesting because from what I understand, the ACC doesn't give them any sort of like, hey, you need to say that it's an ankle injury. You can just kind of go with lower extremity, those sort of things. So I think it's going to be interesting when that comes out.
But Petey, I think 4 games in, so now we're a third of the way into this 2025 season. I think this has been a pretty healthy team.
Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah.
One thing I noticed, especially at the end of the Florida game, Miami knocks players out. They don't get knocked out. They body punch teams into submission physically. And that's one thing that I know Mario really relies on in terms of the identity of his program. But it is my belief, and again, I don't get any medical reports. I'm not an insider, but what has been read, what has been reported.
No one gets medical reports, Steve.
Yeah. This seems like a very healthy team. It's about as healthy as you're going to be 4 games into it.
So there was a lot of talk about Carson Beck on yesterday's podcast with Mike Ryan. He's talking about we need to open it up, throw down the field more. And look, we need more explosive plays. I think statistically everybody would agree there. But, what I was saying was with Carson Beck being a quote-unquote game manager, that's not a derogatory term. I look at Tom Brady as a game manager. I look at Patrick Mahomes as a game manager because Patrick Mahomes takes the easy plays when they're there. He makes you pay when you play a certain way because he has the answers. How do you see Carson Beck in this game going against an FSU defensive backfield and just overall team that, in my opinion, is capable of getting up explosive plays on routine plays?
Well, I think some of this is going to have to do with the weather. Now, what's the latest weather report? I know it's
Good.
Miami and Florida. I know it changes every 10 minutes.
Good.
Are we dry or wet?
So far, so good. It's going in the right direction.
Good. Okay, so that the most hideous streak in college football is going to end this Saturday, knock on wood. Looking at that 3-3-5 that they play, and just some of the stuff I saw against Virginia, they're going to load up the box, and I believe the second-level defenders, and maybe even the third level, they're going to come crashing down hard on the run. You don't need to be Bill Walsh to figure that out. There's going to be opportunities outside to hit shots. This is a game where Carson Beck has to be a little bit better in terms of pass placement and just making sure you stay away from turnovers. But Carson Beck is built for this moment. And again, I'm not here to fluff the SEC. Tallahassee is going to be energized. It's going to be raucous at night. But guess what? He's probably played in environments just as heated, at least, 10 times throughout his career at UGA. So he has to do his best version of Ken Dorsey on Saturday night, stay in control, and someone outside is going to have to win some matchups.
You know what a friend pointed out to me, and I wanted to lay it out based on what you just said. Carson Beck, we know, has been in crazy atmospheres. Our team, like the guys that came back that were here last year, they played in the swamp. They had a good run. If you really look at the guys on our roster that we've added, Keelan Marion, BYU, those were pretty, I know it's not the SEC, but those were pretty loud environments. CJ Daniels from the SEC, Torrey from the Big Ten, Jacoby Thomas from the SEC, Xavier Lucas from the Big Ten. I don't think there's really anybody on our roster, aside from maybe a Malachi Tony, that I'm not worried about, that hasn't played in this kind of environment at least once, probably multiple times.
I guess Markel Bell would be one that you'd.
Well, he was on our team last year.
I know he was on the team, but he didn't start that game against UF. That would be the one that I would say is interesting. Not that I expect him to have any issues, but that is one that you wouldn't think of as your starting left tackle.
But we're an experienced team, right? Right, Steve? We can handle this.
Carson Beck, and I remember linking this interview probably about 5 months, 6 months ago, where Carson Beck really swung me in his direction. Because I'm going to come clean. When we first got Carson Beck, I was like, man, I didn't know it. The injury, the whole thing with the Cavender twin, there's a lot surrounding him. And I said to myself, is this really a football guy? And he did this interview, and I think you've seen it, guys. It's the one with that channel, Built for More. I think they were personal friends of his. And it's the first interview he did in the offseason following his surgery. And they're at this wooden table. They're in a nice little spot. And one of the guys asked him, hey, what's your most memorable moment, Carson, during your college career? And he said, it's not the national championships. I wasn't a starter. But he said, we played Auburn in 2023. And I remember watching this game at JB's house, and they were backed up at the 2-yard line. They had 98 yards to go, and they're down. And that's the game that Brock Bowers turned into Superman late, right? I love this answer from Carson Beck. He said, when I got into that huddle, I looked at all the guys, and I said, hey, fellas, look around you. Look at this crowd here at Jordan Hare. If we do this, you will never forget it. This will be a part of your life and your career. You will always remember this. We can do this, fellas. And I remember thinking, man, this guy's a football guy. He's done this before, guys. He's done it before. This is nothing new to him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think he's built for this just in terms of the style of play. We're going to have some time to throw the ball, right? So you've seen these games in Tallahassee where you're going against some of the best pass rushers, guys that can really kind of equal us. Probably the only team, right, you saw those games where Miami's defensive line would be by far the best in every game they played. And then in this game, there was a little more parity, right, historically. Seems like this year, the difference between our defensive line, their defensive line, pass rush, and then, of course, our offensive line versus their offensive line, seems that's a little more in our favor. How do you see that factoring into this outcome?
Danny, I think you've mentioned this. I thought last year's Florida State defense was actually pretty talented. They got absolutely no help from that other side of the ball, and I think sometimes the effort waned as the emotion kind of took over. Darrell Jackson is a big body, right? His motor's a little bit questionable, but he'll get a shot the next level. But last year, I thought they had one of the better cornerbacks that got drafted pretty high, Azariah Thomas. Central Cypress, he was a pretty good college player. Joshua Farmer, I believe, at least got a shot at the National Football League, right? So they were pretty decent at times. I look at this unit, as something that's more or less built for the spread. If you really study the 3-3-5, it's really a modern day defense trying to get smaller, faster players out there out on the perimeter. This might actually play right into what Miami wants to do. Now, I've seen a lot of games like this. Teams can play on emotions for about 10 minutes to maybe a quarter and a half. Okay. After that, you know what it becomes? A regular football game. And I think that is the dynamic that Miami has to deal with, that there's going to be a certain emotional pitch, but keep this game from getting out of control in that moment of 10 to 15 minutes. And I think, again, you start to body punch them consistently over the next 3 quarters.
Steve, I mean, historically, does this game remind you of any over the years in terms of, I know it's just putting you on the spot there, but
the
I'm
one game
curious
that I thought of immediately when they lost on Friday night, and this is why you cannot overlook anything, and rivalry games are different no matter what anyone says. Even in this version of college football with the transfer portal and the NIL, certain things still ring true. Let's go back to 2002 when Miami is marching towards back-to-back national titles. The week before they played us, Florida State lost on this rainy, wet, puddle-filled night in Louisville in overtime. I think they blew a 17-3 lead in the fourth quarter. Miami was number 1, and I thought we had the best team by far at that moment. Fast forward to that game. I was at that game. We were losing 27 or 26-14 with 10 minutes to go. And it taught me something. Never take rivalry games for granted. And that's the game that McGahee took the screen. I thought the Orange Bowl, I was in the upper deck at that point. I thought it was about to come down.
I was at that game, yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember Sean Taylor with the KO of PK Sam. And that game, I think, was wide left 1.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that was a lesson.
Xavier Beitia.
And here's another one that goes the opposite direction. 2015, we lose a Thursday night game at Cincinnati. We wore those hideous white uniforms. I don't know what Adidas was doing. Good grief. But anyway, I remember talking to Danny on the ride home, and Danny looked like he wanted to jump off a bridge. I wanted to follow him. But that next week, you know who we played? Florida State, who I thought was much better than us at that time. We had the lead with about 7 minutes to go in that game after being down early, and then Dalvin Cook. Damn, that Dalvin Cook broke our hearts again. So again, a lot of cliches. Cliches, though, ring true. Throw these things out, the previous week and the record, when it comes to these games.
2 games I thought of immediately. I totally agree with you, especially that 2014. That was the one that was like, man, I remember how they jumped on us at home. The thing was going crazy. Had a long pass to Clive Walford.
Yeah.
Although I will say, and maybe I'm just it's funny because I'm always the one disrespecting the other team's roster and then thinking it's going to be close. I just know we're going to get a close game against a bad team. If you look at that 2002 FSU team, as down as it was relative to what they were before, you still had Greg Jones, who was running people over. You still had Anquan Bolden, one of the best receivers ever, right, at that time, coming out. They had some good players on defense. 2014, we really had a pretty talented team. We had multiple NFL first-round draft picks. We had multiple NFL offensive linemen. We had Clive Walford, who made that big play. We had some real players on those teams, NFL picks, really multiple. I don't really see that much talent on FSU personally, but like you said, it's a rivalry game. And I'm the one that always runs down the roster, so bring it back up. Who scares you, or at least has your attention and respect on this FSU roster?
Deuce Robinson is going to play at the next level. I saw a lot of him at USC. He's a big-bodied guy, 6'6", and he's obviously a guy that Castellanos is going to do a lot of back shoulder stuff. He's going to be a central focus. The guy that could take the top off, because he's a world-class sprinter at his age, is Mekhi Danzy. Danzy is the type of player that every time he lines up on the perimeter, you're kind of thinking, okay, guys, we got someone over the top, right? Castellanos, people forget, we played him in 2023. Last game ever of Tyler Van Dyke. I think it was a Friday afternoon after Thanksgiving. So some of our players actually have experience against him. Castellanos, we know that he's limited. I think the one central focus that Heatherman's going to have, our defensive linemen have got to be able to have lane integrity and set up like flagpoles where you cannot run past. You got to keep them inside that picket fence and make them into a pocket thrower. Offensive line, I think they're pretty average. I don't see a lot of future. I don't see Walter Jones out there. And then running back, they got some talented young guys. I know they have one of the top 5, prep running backs coming in. Forgot his name, but Chroma. He looks like a really good player. And then defensively, look, I would love to see us run a little bit of tempo to see how Darrell Jackson reacts to it. That one, Darrell Jackson is one of those guys. Is one of the great what ifs in Miami history, I think, because we always talk about this, Danny. We could use another big body, right? Well, that could have been Darrell Jackson. Could have been him.
I mean, look, if he would have stayed, I don't know if he would still be in college. He'd probably have been in the next level at this point.
That's true.
He had to sit out, right? He had to sit out that year. And by the way, he could have gotten drafted if he went to the league straight out of the year that he sat out. But that just shows the talent that he has. Steve, I agree with you on Deuce Robinson. I was talking about it with Amon the other day also, that with his size and athletic ability, like you can be in perfect coverage if you're Xavier Lucas and he's still got a few inches on you, and if it's a well-placed ball, there's nothing you can do about it. So, I think big play wise, he's someone you obviously have to watch for. Danzy as well. I'm with you, D. I don't see the defensive talent though outside of some of these body types like a Jackson. Lyons is a big body as well in there. But I actually really do like the Desir twins also. But I don't know
for the future.
Yeah, they're young right now. I don't know what their impact is going to be in this game. But
and I'll say this, guys. I think
I don't see it.
Florida State's corners last year, I think, were superior to the unit they bring out this year.
Yep. Yeah, Isaiah Thomas is a pro.
Yeah. Good one, too. Got drafted pretty high.
Yeah, if you think of New York Jets. I heard some people talk about how FSU limited our passing game last year. I think some of that was by design, meaning like they knew they were going to get smoked. So let's just avoid Cam Ward getting on our highlight reel. Damian Martinez just completely obliterated them. They had no chance of winning that game with the game plan they played. This game, I think they're going to play to win a little bit because they have a chance to win. Castellanos, I want to go back to, you talked to a little bit. Of all the guys on FSU, he's the one that worries me the most, quite frankly, because he is an experienced college player. I mean, 24 starts, 30 games. The more you watch, and I think the COVID year really illustrated this to me when you saw guys with 5 years, is you cannot put enough value on experience in college football with your quarterbacks. So Castellanos specifically, you mentioned the integrity and not flying upfield and letting them run by you. I mean, just overall, how do you see his impact in this game and the Malzahn offense in general, just the approach to stopping this team? You talked about a little bit. Elaborate on it.
Well, there's 2 plays that Malzahn calls or that take place for FSU. One is the one Malzahn dials up, and 2 is the one Castellanos can create. And those are the toughest guys. And it'll be interesting to see if Heatherman has any type of spy concepts. And then you got to figure out who's going to be the spy on that second level for TC. But TC's a confident guy. Called his shot against Alabama like he was a George Herman Ruth. I got to give him credit. He's tripping a little bit now. He's a difficult college player. Look, he's not going to play at the next level, at least not quarterback. But I said consistently throughout the summer, and I didn't know that Florida State was going to beat Bama. I'm not going to try to rewrite my history here, but I felt as though he was a much better fit for what Malzahn did than Bill O'Brien. It was just kind of an awkward thing where Bill O'Brien really wants more of a pocket passer with some mobility, while Castellanos is a great athlete who has to play a certain style. Castellanos is the wild card because he could take something where it should have been an 8-yard loss into a 20-yard gain, and that can break a defense. And then also another thing is they're going to tempo us. They're going to play a really fast tempo, and I think that's where the experience against the USF is really going to come in handy.
Got a comment here from Kyle with an interesting stat. He says Beck in 8 true career road games averages 238 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. That's not great, Jim.
That speaks for itself, but I think a lot of the bulk of that had to be because if you go back to Beck, and I watched these games again over the summer, it was the Florida game where he really struggled at the intermediate throws, try to jam balls into certain windows that just were not there. really scuffled against Ole Miss. And I believe, I'm not exactly sure, but there was like a 6-game stretch where he had about 3/4 of all his turnovers. It just looked bad. But again, how do you protect a quarterback on the road and what travels? Run game. You gotta have a run game. And I'll say this, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but the weather has played a role in how the offense has been run the first month. And I would gather and I would guess that Miami might be the only team to have 4 games with rain or weather delays, every single one in September.
Yeah. And the margin for error is so small, man. It's not just the quarterback with the wet ball. It's the receivers. Amon Richards talked about how much he worries about slipping, because you slip, you get potentially a pick 6 going the other way. So there's so much that goes into these offensive plays and the execution that something like a torrential downpour in a game that you're dominating on defense and you really don't want to make a mistake on offense, it all has that effect. So it could look totally different here on Saturday. Real quick, Steve, before we talk about Jordan Lyle and maybe his return to action and how that can impact something, let's talk about the folks getting him ready to play, and that is the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. If you consider yourself an athlete like a Jordan Lyle or just an active guy like Steve Kim, who's out there boxing, staying in shape, probably the hardest to sit on the injured list with an injury or some pain. Maybe you try to hack your rehab, get back early. Compromising your movement or performance is not an option, and you want to be 100%. Call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, whether it's elite competition like the University of Miami football team or just everyday people like you and me. The University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today, uhealthsports.com. It's not going to be a sports medicine procedure, but shout out to our friend Jerry. Hope all goes well. I know he'll be back 100% soon. So we're thinking about you, Jerry. Love you. Be good. All right, Steve. Somebody's coming back, we think. Jordan Lyle took the first snap against Notre Dame. We know how important he is, at least to the plan of what this team would look like this season. I've seen him in practice as an explosive player. You saw him in spurts last year. What do you see the impact potentially of a guy like Jordan Lyle joining a running game that's already been very effective?
Well, there's an old saying in boxing. Hit the body, kill the body, and the head will die. And I've said this, and I know people disagree. I believe Jordan Lyle should be the second or third running back after Fletcher and Marty Marr bludgeon teams to the body early. And I go back to when James Jackson was playing behind Edgerrin James. I thought he was much more explosive, broke off more of his big runs in a secondary role late in games after Edge had softened them up. Travis Homer in 2017, before Mark Walton was lost for the year with his injury, the spark that he brought us, Travis Homer, with his athleticism, he broke off a lot of runs in the second half. I think Jordan Lyle is going to be a factor. There's no doubt with that speed and that burst. I remember watching the USF game last year. He broke off that 90-yard run. I said, wow, we haven't had anyone like that in a while. That is a result, though, of a lot of times defenses in the first quarter are going to wear down, and they're not going to be the same group of guys in the fourth quarter. Jordan Lyle, most college teams now run a 3-man rotation in back. Some even run 4. They're going to get anywhere from 10 to 15 carries, most guys. I don't think it's important that Jordan Lyle becomes a guy that lines up on the first snap of the game and gets the first carry. I'm interested to see when he's going to get the carries, because right now that 1-2 combination of Fletcher and Brown, I think, has been dynamic.
And Steve, to me, it's like, how are they going to use him? Are they going to just run it right up the middle with him as they do kind of with these other guys, right? Or are they going to try to get a little bit more creative and utilize that speed?
Peter, so much has been made of Miami's, maybe, I won't say over-reliance, but the fact that we've been very consistent. We like running the duo, right? We like to just mash it up front, keep it very simple. Danny talks about it a lot, and making sure that at the very least, we're always going to be in 2nd and 6 or 7, but never at 2nd and 13. Completely understand that. But you go back to the Florida game, there was more variety in the run game. It wasn't just a duo scheme. We were actually doing some things with some pulling. Those are the things that I think Jordan Lyle could be really good at. But that ability to give the guy a ball that could take it 75 yards, absolutely can turn an offense in one play. Now, here's a question, guys. Now, JoJo Trader is expected to travel and be on the roster, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's going to be interesting because I think JoJo Trader has to make a decision here. Do you want to be a Miami Hurricane under Mario Cristobal or not? We are a serious program, and the days of Jeff Thomas lingering are over. And it reminds me of a story. And this is what I really respect about Mario is the standards that he is setting in terms of how you practice, how you play. One of my really good friends of all the former players is Dr. Claude Jones. You had him on the show about a month ago, Danny. Great guy. Has 3 national title rings. And one day we're talking, and I said, hey, what's your most memorable moment of Jimmy Johnson? Because he's the one who recruited him. And Claude said it had to be 87 or 88. So Claude has some sort of a knee injury. And this is before practice during the season. And they're in the training room, and all these players are getting looked over. It's about 20 minutes before practice. And so Jimmy's looking at all these players, and I'm imagining it's like Benny Blades, Fullington, Tolbert Bain, Selwyn Brown, Derwin Jones. And he's looking them all over. Okay, how's he doing? Okay, all right. So Claude is like basically a red shirt. He's probably 4th on the depth chart because he really didn't play till about 1990 with Erickson. So he said he hadn't really spoken to Jimmy in a while during the season. You don't really actually talk to players and coaches unless you're in the rotation. So Jimmy's looking around and finally goes over to Claude's table. Claude says, hey, coach, how you doing? He sticks out his hand. And Jimmy just goes, Claude, I don't talk to injured players. He walked right out the door. Got to contribute, man.
Yeah, it's go time.
I mean, Jimmy was ruthless in his own way. But it's funny about Jimmy, though. 35 years later, Jimmy in his book Swagger actually mentioned Claude Jones as being how proud he was of him becoming a doctor and the type of people that the University of Miami produces. And I remember calling, or I texted Claude, and I said, Claude, have you spoken to Jimmy? He goes, Steve, I haven't seen him since he left Miami. He goes, why? He just put you in his book. Couldn't believe it. So Jimmy was a wild dichotomy. He can be incredibly ruthless, but at the same time care about you. I find him to be a fascinating figure, but that is the program now. You either make progress and pull your weight, or you may not be a part of this program.
Well, and I think, Steve, with him, it's like we saw he got opportunities against Notre Dame. They threw him the ball deep there early in the ball game. Obviously, it wasn't a completion. We saw him have a couple good blocks. We saw him hold off from getting a personal foul. So I think it's with him when you ask what the expectations are that he's going to be traveling, is when he gets his reps, may not be a whole lot of reps, because we said even before he got nicked up, there were other guys who were showing that, hey, they probably deserve to play over him at this point. Now, does he potentially add a different element to the offense? Yes. It comes down to, hey, when Shannon Dawson schemes him up a couple looks here and his number's called, what is he going to do with it? Is he lining up in the right place? Because when we talk about practicing hard, a lot of that stuff comes down to, the mental side of it, doing what you have to do there, not just actually running harder in practice. It's like doing the things that lead to you getting the reps. And Amon harped on this. We had a 15, 20-minute discussion on this last week about it. And if he takes advantage of those, maybe there'll be very, very small opportunities, because when we'll get it in the comments, hey, why did JoJo only get 7 snaps? I don't know what the game's going to look like. Maybe in those few snaps, he didn't do what his job was. Maybe he just didn't do it. Now maybe he gets 7 snaps and does great job, and then next week sees 15, 20 snaps. Next opportunity out against Louisville, he's got to build up there. So Danny, that's just what
you've been at practice much more than I have. I haven't been at any, but I have a question based on what you have seen. How does Trader change the dynamic of this year's offense with his ability?
So Trader is not like Micah Danzy, right? That he's going to be a sprinter. He's very much a smooth athlete. And what I mean is he's the guy, just watch him in warm-ups. Beck's talked about this. He'll do the one-handed catches effortlessly. I'm talking about like running full-speed routes and one-handing it. He'll do a backflip just like he's having a conversation with me and you. He's one of those just naturally athletic guys, not a sprinter. Danzy, I would say, is a sprinter. He's strong, right? He's muscled up, straight line. He'll break a tackle. He'll go 70 yards. He'll just separate with his running. Whereas with Trader, he'll separate on his route.
Yeah.
He'll separate just with his smooth change of pace ability. So I wouldn't put him in like a Santana Moss category or like an Andre Johnson. Those guys are sprinters. Like, you'll give them the ball and they're just going to run by everybody on top of all the other stuff they do. I would put Trader more in the, the continuum, let's say. The best version of it would be Amon Richards. He's bigger, but smooth guy that's just everything looks easy. And then the other side, still
Amon was faster too.
Yeah. No, Amon was the highest level.
Yeah.
And then you look at some guys like a Jacoby George, Stacey Coley, right? I would say other guys in that, still productive, not obviously at that level, but still productive. He's in that family. I think he can be better than a Stacey Coley. I don't think he'll be an Amon Richards. He can be better than a Stacey Coley and a Jacoby George, who are very productive players for us, but he's got to lock in. His ability to separate, he's probably the most – Tony separates really well, but he's probably the best separator along with Tony. You saw what he did against Iowa State, broke a tackle, went to the house. He can make big plays, but it's not going to be like a Danzy where it's just, hey, here's the ball, break a tackle and sprint. He's going to make big plays through his routes. He can adjust to the ball really well. He's good on his back shoulder throws. You just got to take care of his body, man. Not just the injuries. You got to get stronger.
Another thing I love about Mario is that practice performance. And again, there are certain guys that are gamers. There really are. Let me give you an example in boxing. I thought Manny Pacquiao was the most mediocre fighter in sparring I've ever seen. And I saw hundreds of rounds at Wild Card. If you didn't know who he was, you never would have thought that this is one of the best fighters of the past 30 years. But he was an absolute gamer. When the lights were on, smaller gloves, no headgear, he became a different guy. But there was a track record that we knew of. You talk to most football coaches, 99% of players, the way they practice will absolutely matters. Practice matters. The way you perform in practice should be rewarded. I don't think Mario will ever move off of that mantra. Practice will matter. So
one thing I'm seeing here is just talking about let's see, pull up Jason comments. Appreciate your support. And he says, Trent's travel, which we've watched college football for a long time. We know this is the fact. Love what you guys are doing. Appreciate you. Steve episodes are always a hit. But like the run game, the trenches, all that travels. I'm thinking to my favorite Lil Wayne verse, Banned from TV. Shout out to Suave. He did his own rap, like a Kane-related rap, where he was talking about some of the podcasters trying FSU fans to that same beat. But one of the lines in that Lil Wayne verse was, I'm still sticking to the script like Nicole Kidman. And I think of that. You got to stick to the script here. You really don't need to do too much different than what you've done. And I think we'll get more explosive just by, number one, getting healthier with Lyle, with Trader, with Lofton. And then just also just making these simple plays against a defense in FSU that is not a good defense, not a disciplined defense, not a tough defense, not a talented defense. Just stick to the script, and the explosive plays will follow.
Danny, the one thing, Chandler Morris, I think, is really a moxie-laden quarterback. And I love quarterbacks with moxie. But he turned the ball over. And I thought one of those, he had a check down for 6 yards to Jamari Taylor. And that kind of flipped the game. You have to protect the ball, especially on the road, because emotion is a big part of it. But you mentioned a guy that, Danny, I think me and you have co-driven the bandwagon. It was great to see him starting to make a mark, Elijah Lofton. Lofton is one of the more unique matchup nightmares, I think, in Miami history. He's not really a pure tight end, not really an H-back. I wouldn't really consider him a true fullback. He's part Mondrell Fulcher. Yep. I remember him from Kansas, played on the early Butch Davis teams. He was a kind of a tweener.
Quarterback in high school, right?
He was a quarterback in high school, came in as a tight end, and then he ended up being a fullback because we had no depth. We're number 18, and really good out in space, but I don't think we ever got him the ball enough. When you look at the way Lofton can work in the intermediate of the field, out into the flat, something in the RPO game, he's a guy that can glue the offense together and move the chain. I get the sense, Danny, that his role is only going to expand moving forward into this 25 season.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we saw is really the other day is what you can expect, maybe a little bit more of him. But Yeah, you want to get him, I'd say 5 to 7 touches a game, ideally. A lot of comments about, obviously, Alex Bauman has not had the hottest start to the season. Steve, from what I understand, they're not giving up on him. They think that him and Beck need to continue to get on the same page there. But I don't think you're going to see necessarily a huge decrease in his reps this week. He's still a guy who's played more football than some of these young guys. A Luka Gilbert, a Brock Schott, who Luka Gilbert we talked about was getting reps near the goal line last week, a couple weeks ago against Florida. But to me, you still can't give up on. I mean, it doesn't seem like they are. When I say give up, like they're not going to decrease the reps just yet there. So that tight end room as a whole, I think it needs to continue to elevate as the season goes on.
If Bauman's not going to be Jeremy Shockey, he just has to be serviceable. Blocking has been an issue. And this is where we probably miss a Riley Williams. This would have been his third year as a college football player. Obviously got a little homesick, and now he's there at Corvallis. He's an Oregon State Beaver, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But if you're going to work in the younger tight ends, specifically Luka Gilbert and a very gifted, talented, athletically rich guy in Brock Schott, I think it's going to come after our second bye, maybe going into Louisville or after when we hit the heart of the ACC schedule. But this is a game, I believe Bauman's, a fifth-year senior? Again, first road game on the road at night, prime time, heated rival. I'm not trusting any young players just yet. I would stick for Bauman for at least this weekend.
Steve, until when do we have you today?
No, about another 15 minutes. Another 15
All right,
minutes.
Let's keep it rolling. So this is an interesting deal with the bye game.
And then another
bye. What do you think about this whole schedule and just the way it kind of unfolds here?
I didn't understand. When I got the schedule, I was like, those buys are not really spaced out a lot. But you can look at it both ways. I think this first buy is timed out perfectly. Get the first third of the year in. Now you prepare for your rival. So if you look at it, if you want to be completely positive about it, right? And I'm an optimistic cynic, just in my old age. I could say, look, now we're playing Louisville, who, if they beat UVA, which is not a guarantee, Louisville's looked a little shaky this whole year, guys.
Yeah, they lost a lot in the portal.
They have, and even the James Madison game that they won and they pulled away late with that Isaac Brown burst, I came away thinking that I'm not so sure they were the better team on that night, but they did win, and that matters. So, but Brom runs a very slick offense, and I'm thinking, if it's a physical, classic Florida State-Miami game, maybe the bye going into Louisville, which now is on a Friday night, you make a short week into a long week because you have a natural bye. And if you get past Louisville, now you got to say, okay, we got 7 weeks of football. So you could look at it both ways. Are the buys too close together? Perhaps. But at the same time, are they still kind of coming at the same time based on the circumstances of Florida State on the road and then a short week in theory, because it's a Friday, against Louisville, which has given us problems?
Yeah, I agree with you. I take the optimistic view. Is the two hardest teams, if you told me 4-0, beat UF, beat Notre Dame, great. We're all ecstatic.
Yeah.
Now ACC time, which has been historically tough for us. The two toughest games of that crew, particularly because of the offenses they play, which are totally different, Florida State and Louisville. Once you get past those guys, if you're able to get past those guys, yes, it is a gauntlet from a travel schedule, but these teams suck. I mean, Stanford's terrible. NC State, very limited. Who else do we play? Pitt, they're no good.
Virginia Tech just fired their coach.
Is abysmal. And we've struggled with bad teams, so it's not like we've not lost to this caliber of team.
SMU is down. They lost a lot of guys that we know very well. They lost a lot of the ex-Hurricanes, and I saw a breakdown of Kevin Jennings from his first 8-9 games as a starter to the last 5. Teams have figured him out. So, look, playing 7 straight games in the second half of a schedule without a break is daunting. But if you look at that schedule, and you listed most of those teams, I would say those guys out in Vegas would have us at least a touchdown or 3 favorite in at least, 6 or 7 of those games.
I think we're 10-point favorites in all of the games if we win this weekend and we beat out Louisville. If we win the next 2 and no major injuries, Beck, or, Bain or someone crazy, I think we're probably 10-plus point favorites because SMU's defense is horrible. At
Bad.
Syracuse, without their quarterback, is a
Bad.
non-factor. I really think the talent, at least from the ACC standpoint, is concentrated in FSU, which I don't think is that talented, but compared to the other teams, they are. And then Louisville, who has, Miller Moss can throw. Chris Bell is going to be an NFL receiver. Lacey is a dynamic player. They have that good, what's his name? Lubin, the defensive end.
Lubin.
Very talented, smaller guy, but explosive. So really, like, the good players left on the schedule are kind of concentrated with these two teams, and then it's going to be smooth sailing in theory. But
I'm thinking about the basketball player. There's a guy named Van Allen Lubin who's a basketball player. Sorry,
but there's another guy that they have at the end.
I mean, think about it. We miss Clemson, who still has some talent. We miss Georgia Tech, who has been an absolute bugaboo, and we don't play Virginia. So if you're ever going to go on a stretch, guys, where you play 7 straight games in the back half without a bye, this is the year.
Steve, every week with you, we tend to get into national college football talk. Big weekend last weekend, some pretty big results there with Oregon winning at Penn State, Bama beating Georgia. Georgia, I think, really, they're getting exposed a little bit here, and I think will be as the season goes on. That it's just not the same, and I think we knew that, but I think it'll be put under the microscope a bit more here. And, other than that, Indiana gets a nice win on the road. Your thoughts on last weekend?
Last weekend was interesting. Dante Moore made a real statement, and as I suspected, he was the best quarterback on that field. And I'm wondering if Penn State is wondering, is our best quarterback at Mizzou with Pribs? He might be a better fit for what Kotelnicki does offensively with a lot of the RPO, and you need some athleticism and some quick twitch athleticism to get away from defenders. Drew Aller's okay. I never understood the hype. He can make certain throws, but he does not fit that system perfectly. And I'm just wondering, if Penn State had Jalen Daniels, how much different does that offense look? The other thing,
real quick on Aller, if he was as decisive in the passing game as he is in his DMs,
boy, he got right to the point. We'd be in much
better shape because he
got right to the point.
To the point.
I mean,
when
right
it comes to passing, I don't see the same instincts.
Yeah.
He everything takes forever. He looks the part, but it's like, never do you watch Penn State, or at least I watch Penn State. I'm like, oh, that's easy.
Steve, what did I say last week? I said we need his PR agent, man. I mean, I literally said it before the game last week. I was laughing at the headlines that were being thrown. Pete Thamel's headline. Well, I put it up on the show. It was just like you can tell there's been a story put out there about him that has put him in this light, and it just doesn't match what I see.
And take away look, I give Penn State credit. They battled back. They came very close. Oregon dominated 90% of that game. They really did. And Dante Moore looks like a guy who's going to have his name called very early whenever he comes out for the National Football League draft. The other, what else stood out? I'll tell you guys, as we look ahead, I'm not saying they're going to beat them again. I think Vandy's actually a better team than they were last year. I'm impressed by Vandy's talent outside. Trey Richardson, Junior Souls. This is the key for Vanderbilt this week going into Tuscaloosa. You know what they try to do. Shorten the game, create leverage in the run game, a lot of eye candy. But when they dial up deep shots, and they're going to have to do it liberally at times, Pavia's going to have to hit 3 or 4 of those deep shots, whether it's a post pattern, whether it's a go route. They have some athletes. Number 6, Trey Richardson. That guy can get past people. It's not just their tight end, who was really good last year, number 9. I thought that was a very methodical offense. This Vanderbilt offense is actually pretty explosive within the style they play. I think they actually stick around with Bama a little bit.
Yeah, we talked top 5s after the weekend, me and Pete. And this is not like the top 5 ranking that actually comes out. This is just, who do we think are the 5 best teams based on what we've seen? I think it's probably a better way to rank teams these days anyways, because the playoffs, like Ohio State won the championship, losing to Michigan, losing to Oregon. So you kind of got to figure out who the actual best teams are, and then the playoffs will take care of themselves. But to me, I had Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Texas A&M because of the run game, the run defense. And then I had Notre Dame just because I liked what they saw. I think they're going to be, by the end, a top 5 team. Pete had the same rankings, I believe, except Alabama instead of Notre Dame, right? A lot of people said Ole Miss in the comments, like, hey, you got to get Ole Miss in there.
Yeah.
Who do you have as the top 5 teams in the country, not ranking your best 5?
Yeah, your top 3 pretty much spot on. I think Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambly, has juiced up that offense. My boy Trini, you have made Simmons into Wally Pipp. I'm going to call him the Iron Horse, Trinidad Chambly. This guy's been the story of the year, and he gives them a new dimension. Guys, A&M's defense, I'm a little suspect, guys. Hugh Freeze ought to just go to the PGA Tour. Your offense is broken. That thing looks antiquated. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton have to be the most frustrated players in the country. Oof. 2 future NFL wide receivers. They can't get the ball, but I think that Auburn,
they should be here.
Yeah, that Auburn offense makes everyone look like the 2000 Ravens. It's a broken system, but A&M, look, Elko's a serious coach, and for all the talk of the quarterbacks that have not been very good or lived down to expectations, Marcel Reed is actually developing. He's developing into a guy that can make routine passes. The dig route, the comeback, the out on time at the top of his drop, getting rid of it. It looks the part. I actually think he's making more progress than Lenore Sellers is as a pure passer of the football within the pocket. So it's great development. Still not sure about that defense. I think Alabama is still pretty good, guys, offensively. Now, defensively, they gave up a lot of yards rushing, and I'm still trying to figure out what Kirby Smart was thinking, giving that money to Cash Money Jones. On that part when Chauncey Bowens was running very well. I would have just kicked the field goal, guys. But again, I'm a traditionalist. I believe in just tying up the game and then playing defense. But their defense, Georgia's, is not very good anymore. So the other team that I would have, that's interesting. I'd have to think about it. But let me see. Who's another team? Name a team. Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Ole Miss.
My prediction now is that Indiana's going to beat Oregon at Oregon this year.
What?
I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Indiana. I really am.
In Eugene, Oregon will not hold serve against the Mendozas.
I think Indiana wins that game. Hey, guys, before I get out of here, what is your favorite Florida State Miami memory?
Oh, easy. Born 85, right? So take that into account as far as the timeline, but 2000. 2000 Miami FSU was the greatest game I've ever been a part of as a Miami fan. That includes the Rose Bowl, everything else. This is why I hate the playoff that we have now. Yeah. Because that was the year we got screwed. So, like, I should look at that year as, like, this is why we need a playoff. And I think a 4-team playoff would have been perfect that year. You had Washington who beat us. You had us who beat FSU. You had FSU. And then you had Oklahoma. And that would have sorted itself out. But that Miami FSU game, I don't think fans that are getting into college football now who are that age that are going to grow up with the playoffs understand what that kind of regular season game meant back then. And for us, and Steve, you know this because you were part of this process. You saw the whole up and down.
We lost 5 straight.
We lost badly to them, but it was more like we were on top of the world. Probation hit. FSU stepped into the place that we were at and really controlled the whole deal. And then this game was the changing of the guard, and we knew we had Hall of Famers all over the place, kind of on the horizon. It was just like getting over the hump. And that game, hottest day in Orange Bowl history.
And they ran out of water. They ran out of water.
Yeah.
I mean, people were literally being carried out, but it was worth it. You know, when
I mean, the 02 game was very hot too.
But they didn't run out of water though. No, hey guys, the 2000 game was interesting because we had lost 5 straight, and in 97 we lost 47-0, and it felt like we were a million miles away. It almost felt like, man, we just never do this. 98 we played them close, couldn't handle Peter Warwick. 99 we actually had to lead at halftime against a team that went undefeated, ran out of juice. And in 2000 was the most cathartic experience when Jeremy Shockey caught that little route. And then when they missed the field goal, it was like nirvana. Guys, before I leave, my favorite game where I really sealed my Miami fandom, the 87 game, down 19-3, 16 minutes to go in regulation. Steve Walsh was this close to getting benched. Craig Erickson was actually warming up. And then Steve Walsh and Michael Irvin just became absolute legends. And in my view, Michael Irvin streaking down the sideline at Doak Campbell Stadium to put Miami up 26-19 on a 3rd and 8. I believe it was a 73-yard touchdown with about 2:45 to go. It's the greatest play alongside Kenny Calhoun's deflection of the 2-point conversion. I've seen pictures. I've seen stills of it. It should be hung in the Smithsonian. That's the game that really sealed me. I said, okay, we can do this, Miami. You're good.
Pulling it up right here as we get you out of here. There it is.
Oh,
Michael
that
Irvin.
picture. Oh my God. Look at that.
How good are those uniforms?
Oh, there's a great scene, though, when Michael Irvin tied the game at 19, he was in the slot, and Gary Stevens kind of called it like a streak down the middle. And CBS had a shot going into the commercials of our sidelines because they panned out from the back of the end zone. The way our sideline erupted, you're right. Back then, Danny, the game meant more because you were not getting a second shot at this. You had one shot to do this. Now, that game ended up being 26-25. Leonard Bubba McDowell knocks down the 2-point conversion late. And Sports Illustrated and everyone else called it the game of the year. So you fast forward, in 88, we were supposed to play Florida State, I believe, in mid-October. CBS actually talked to both schools, and they said, guys, we're going to pay you a lot more money to move this game up on Labor Day Saturday weekend, that weekend. And that was 31-0, the ambush. And one of the greatest lines ever from Bobby Bowden. They said, well, what'd you think of the defensive game plan? You guys got shut out. And they go, dadgummit, I got to tell you, that Jimmy Johnson's a defensive genius. Oh, Bobby. Like Bobby. He's a good guy.
Love it. Love it. Steve, thank you so much. Plug your stuff. Get out of here. You're the man. This is your weekend, man. I know you're going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, in a few moments, I'll be on with Coach JB on his show. Also, 3 Knockdown Rule with Mario Lopez, and Tim Bradley just grills Mario over the Canelo Crawford fight. I also do a twice-a-week column for snack.com, and I make regular appearances on Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And, guys, I'll see you next week and at the Louisville game. Kimipedia. Be good, baby. Thanks, guys. The best.
Always great stuff there from Steve Kim. I would throw in the 09 game for me personally, the Ja'Cory game on the road.
Yeah.
I was at that game with my dad and one of my friends and his dad. We actually went up, made a weekend out of it because that was a Monday night game. We went to see Florida because my buddy and his dad were Gator fans. Florida played Georgia Southern, and then we went to the game, and I was, being a 15-year-old kid, Ja'Cory was like, the greatest thing ever for me. So I was, that was like, man, that was an awesome road win. We were in the end zone that they had the, what was it? Colin McCarthy, like, I don't know if it was a tip pass, but he was right behind the receiver on the incompletion there. So yeah, that was a good one. I know it didn't really mean anything historically in terms of significance, but season opener, that was a fun one.
Yeah, I remember because the Blueprint 3 had come out. The Jay-Z album had just come out. I remember I had a great, and Only Over Cuban Links 2 had just come out. So I remember I had that was the end of CDs. I want to say I still have my CD player in my car, and I had all those CDs ready to rock for the whole ride. I drove from DC to Tallahassee and back, or Baltimore.
I remember when Aldarius had that painful looking injury.
Yeah.
It was like a groin injury.
Yeah, I remember Greg Cooper hit a sluggo, slide and go. That was wide open on. That was a hell of a game.
Diedrich Epps scored a touchdown in that game.
Diedrich Epps. Colin McCarthy had a pick, right, to end it.
Yeah, listen, I don't have Steve Kim recall.
Me neither.
But you get to this era of Canes football, and I do have some random memories there.
The N'Kosi Perry comeback was lit. That was great.
Yeah, I was removed from the stadium for that one. But
our team has got a lot better, by the way, since that game, at least that N'Kosi Perry game. I don't know, FSU's come back maybe a little bit. Miami's certainly improved their roster a bit. I want to talk, Pete, real quick. I'm going to talk about some stuff, but we're going to get to who we think are going to be potentially the breakout players of this game. I've talked about a little bit. I want to get your thoughts. So collect your thoughts. Let me know who the breakout players this game are going to be while I talk about some folks that already broke out. One of the hottest apps on the planet, and that is KashKick, KashKick. You get on the App Store, over 1.5 million downloads, 4.5 plus average rating on the App Store. It's the number 4 lifestyle app on the entire Apple system. You're talking about ahead of Pinterest. I mean, this is a mainstream deal. KashKick, KashKick. And I love this promotion, the Play It Forward promotion. Think about KashKick, what it does. Download the app, get all kinds of games, the games you play on your phone, passing time, competing, trying to get the high score. They got a million, whether it's sports, RPG, puzzle, you name it, cards. If you're into it, they got it on the KashKick app. Makes it easy, keeps them all together. Number two, you play, you make money. It's that simple. You play the game, and with the advertisements, the way they work, you make money. You connect it to your Google account, Facebook, whatever it is. It's all verified, all legit. Connect. Money goes straight into your PayPal. You were talking about, it's not going to make you quit your job, but it is extra income on the side while you're just having fun playing games, wasting time. Not really wasting because you're making money too. So even the wasting time for fun, you're making money. But on top of that, with this Play It Forward program, the American Cancer Society will get matched donations based on how much you play and earn for yourself. So it's the rare win-win-win. You play it, have fun, you make some money on the side, and then American Cancer Society gets a donation on top of that. So you're doing a good deed. So sounds too good to be true. It's all legit. Look it up. KashKick.org. KashKick app, playitforwardcancer.org. But again, this is all verified, legit. You're seeing it right here. KashKick, KashKick. And while we're spending it, or spelling some names here, Pete, I got to talk about this is my new, someone in the chat told me to pronounce it this way, and I can't do it enough, which is ORCHID man, the Orchid Man, not the Method Man, the OrchidMan Florida.com, ORCHID man Florida.com. Number one landscape artisans in South Florida, from Palm Beach all the way down to Key West. They will take care of your landscaping needs. If you want to improve your house, if you want to improve your business, doesn't matter. Talk to OrchidMan Florida. This is one of the, you've seen him on the show. He just sent me his prediction for the Canes FSU game. He's one of the most hardcore Canes there is, one of the most plugged in, connected Canes there is. He works with Canes coaches. He works with giant companies, but he'll work with you. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be a big company or living in a multi-million-dollar mansion to get the OrchidMan Florida treatment, and he'll quarterback your whole operation. Not just the pretty stuff, the plants, the design, also the dirty work, maintenance, tree trimming, sprinkler repair, you name it. He'll take care of it. Take it off your hands, off your mind. OrchidManFlorida.com, ORCHID man. That's the guy right there. All right. So, Pete, I gave you some time to kind of formulate. Who do you think? Well, let's go with two. So, give me one player as we start who you think could potentially be a player of this game for the Canes.
And look, when we talk about breakout players, at least my definition of a D is I don't think we're going to see guys who haven't necessarily played, right? So, like I saw a Booker Pickett shout in here, for example. I don't see a guy like him getting significant snaps in this game. So, like, it's going to be guys who have played. I think Marquise Lightfoot, for me, is that breakout guy. In terms of spying the quarterback, I think he's going to be very big to make sure he's containing Castellanos from, getting outside of the tackles there. I think a lot of what you see from Bain is, the power game, getting upfield. Castellanos is going to want to bail. Lightfoot has the twitchiness, has the agility, as we see. We've always talked about it with him. He wasn't going to be – the question with him was all offseason, hey, has he put on weight? Has he put on weight? Yes, he has, but that's not what makes him the special player. It's his movement ability. It's his twitch. And it's his ability really in space too, as we've seen him chasing guys on these third downs.
And coverage too.
And coverage. And it's not just – we want to see sacks all the time, right? Sacks is what you judge some of these pass rushers on. But a lot of times, him just holding Castellanos to 3-4 yards will be just as good as a sack on a lot of these plays, because he'll be the one, I think, tasked with making sure he doesn't break that one and go 25, 30 yards downfield.
Yeah, and I love that choice. A versatile piece like that. He's just as fast as Castellanos. Maybe not as quick, but I think if they raced, it's not that much a difference between Lightfoot and Castellanos. I mean, this guy runs like 4.5. So really, really like that pick by Pete. I think this is not a team that's going to physically overwhelm them. They have some big guys on the offensive line, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. He's so tough. He's so physical for his size and so high motor. Love the pick. I'm going to go with somebody. Look, this is an obvious pick, but I think it's, to me, going to be one of the stories of the game, and it's Carson Beck. I just think between last game against Florida, where it was a rainy game, he did just enough to win, played winning football, but didn't have the spectacular Heisman performance maybe some people expected. This game, whether or not the weather holds, but now it looks like the weather's going to hold. He's going to be protected. FSU really, to me, does not show – their corners are okay, but they don't show a ton of ability to me to disrupt the passing game in any meaningful way. They obviously have to worry about the run. It is wide open for Carson Beck, and I think if he just sticks to the script like we've been talking about, don't force it downfield because you feel like you need to. Just take the open man, run the offense, take your time. You got the answers to the test. You're going to have protection. He is going to end up carving these guys up. Some of those 10-yard plays are going to be 25, 30, maybe longer type plays. If he just sticks to that script, I think he could have a monster game here against Florida State. And while everybody's watching the run game, because FSU is going to struggle to stop the run, as we saw against Virginia, that just opens up for Carson Beck. And I think he could have one of those, it's not set out to be a stat game, but because of those little paper cuts, it'll end up being a big stat game, and he'll be the talk of the town, hopefully, after the game.
Green Tree All-American asking if Lightfoot can set the edge in the run game, though. I don't think they ask him to do that much, D. I just don't see that being the case. But
yeah, he's the Lightfoot for what he does is very tough, high motor. He's not going to be asked to set the edge, but being like, if you look at him more like a linebacker, I think he's very tough for that role. So, P, who would be your second potential breakout star player of this game?
I am going to stick on the defensive side of the ball and go Wesley BUZZN. Because kind of similarly to what we just said with Lightfoot and his ability to run in space, I think BUZZN is going to be asked to do a lot of the same. And I think he has one of those performances where he has a sack and a half, couple tackles for loss, maybe a forced fumble, just because he's going to be around the ball a lot. I think there's going to be as one of those linebackers in the middle of the field, they're going to be tasked with a lot in terms of their eyes, watching the movement in the backfield. And if he reads a couple plays correctly, I think he'll shoot in there and make some big plays in the backfield.
Almost went to FSU, right? That was the big competition out of high school for him. So fourth year, I like that pick. Just put a stamp on his Miami career. It's got more to go, obviously, but put a stamp on this rivalry portion of his Miami career with the big game against FSU. I like that pick. I'm going to go with another local guy. Look, I did a whole video yesterday here at Duffy's Tavern, the home of the Hurricanes, talking about why I think Jordan Lyle could potentially be a breakout candidate because he's itching to play. The running game is going to have a lot of success. We know Mark Fletcher, one of the best backs in the country. He's going to be licking his chops to go against this three-man front for FSU. We talked about a little bit with Steve just how they got three guys up front. There's going to be space there. There's going to be angles there. They're not big guys to begin with, so it's not like they're like clogging up a ton of space. Great favorable matchup for the running game. But I'm going to go in the passing game. I pick Carson Beck first. His favorite target, could it be JoJo? Could it be Keelan Marion? Could it be CJ Daniels? I'm going to go with Malachi Toney. Again, I'm not picking names that are too off the reservation. I think we just got to do what we do, and it's going to be even more explosive than usual. Malachi Toney, he's going to get open. He's going to catch the ball. Edwin Joseph on the other side from Chaminade. Earl Little on the other side from American Heritage, same school Malachi Toney went to. This just feels like a game he's got a lot of familiarity in. He's probably circled and said, man, I've always wanted to play in this game. I always wanted to dominate in this game. I just see Malachi Toney not doing anything different than what he's already been doing, but just getting more and more experience, more and more accustomed to the speed of the game, where he could really hurt teams, getting more and more chemistry with Beck, who they already have a really tight bond. I see Malachi Toney maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game, really, really hurting FSU. I don't think they have anybody that can even come close to covering him. Jerry Wilson is their best player. We heard Clay Fink say yesterday to Houston, maybe they put Clay Fink on Malachi to try to
Clay Fink on Malachi. I don't know how that one would go for the Knowles, man. Shoot. I know they want to try anything, but that may not be the solution.
There might be a better chance. But Jerry Wilson from Houston transfer on Malachi, but I don't think anybody's stopping Malachi. The only way you're going to stop this Malachi Beck connection to me is if you have like a truly elite corner like a Leonard Moore from Notre Dame, and even Malachi did work in that game. Or if you get to Carson Beck, and I definitely don't see either of those things happening. Jerry Wilson would be your best bet against Malachi Toney, but I think Malachi's better than him. So I like that connection, that Beck to Malachi connection. I think you go to what's been there for you against Notre Dame, what's been there for you all through camp, what's been there for you in the season, and not only you're going to have success kind of paper cut wise, I think you're going to end up hitting some big plays, some big touchdowns, and really hurting FSU. So Malachi Toney, Carson Beck, the same guys that were the talk of the town at Notre Dame, back talk of the town here after Florida State, and hopefully the third victory in that trio of rivals that we're trying to take out. Chris Gons mentions Keelan Marion as another choice. That'd be cool to see. I mean, they've struggled to tackle overall as a team. I think Marion's a guy, right, that if he breaks a tackle, he can do some significant damage there, Pete. So Jacoby Thomas, I've heard people talk about him playing a role maybe as that spy. So really a lot of guys that could factor in here to this game. But look, we'll be watching, man. I will be in Tallahassee for the game, Pete. I know you're going to be down here in Miami. If you guys are in the area, South Florida, place to go, Duffy's Tavern. They're going to have the watch party. They're going to have a TV set up out here. I know Jose's out there in the back. If he's ready, roll out here. This guy's playing. He's on the injured list, and he's still out here working, doing his thing. But it's a family out here. This is the Cheers of Miami. This is the home of the Hurricanes. They've had how many Miami, Florida State games here? Just look on the walls. You see a lot of victories celebrated out here. You got the man himself, Jose Toledo, right there. Look at him playing injured. Let's get you in the shot.
Have him hold that there.
How you guys doing?
Oh, doing phenomenal right there.
Awesome.
Let's get you on there.
There you go.
Because your beautiful face. Look at that.
Yeah.
What Miami FSU? I mean, this is kind of like right in the lane of Duffy's Tavern. It feels like, because there's been a million of these here, and I know you guys are doing it big.
Yeah, the history of those wide right, wide left. You know, that's what we're here for, man. You know, we're here to have all you guys come. Guys that can't make it to Tally, by all means, we'll be loud and proud here. I've got a huge patio set up. We'll be renting extra tables and chairs. Got extra TVs all set up for everybody to be able to come and have a great time.
I had someone ask me how early they should get here. So
yeah, how
early? As early as they want, man. As early as they want. I'll be honest with you. I said, you know, I just got text right now. Hey, can I get 2 seats? And I said, sure. Show up at 4 a.m. They're like, do I really have to? I was like, well, I hope not. But just get here early. Just get here early.
And the other games are playing too, right?
Yes, yeah,
like
every
the noon
game
games, the 3:30. So no reason.
Always here for you guys, without a doubt. I will do a shout out for hopefully Brian Fitzgerald gets Bryce Fitzgerald gets some playing time and shows his abilities as a freshman.
He's doing it.
You know, under your tutelage and others right there, help start the path. How's BUZZN JV doing? We getting back on track?
No. You know, we had a tough one last night. We lost to Gulliver. JV's got 2 more games left. Somerset and Miami High, and hopefully we can bring those 2 as a win. But our varsity for BUZZN plays tonight versus I think it's South Miami. So hopefully we get a W this evening, and a shout out to the boys there at BUZZN too. Yeah, finish strong, and then get those JV guys on the varsity, keep the momentum going. Canes Fan Duke says Duffy's Tavern, the best eating establishment on the planet. Make sure you got that tavern underlined, circled. That's how you know you're in the real.
Thank you, Duke.
You're not some chain. You're in the real deal.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to Canes Fan Duke. Shout out to Jose. Appreciate you, man.
All right,
I know
brother.
you're going to be holding this down here
Yes.
on Saturday and every day today. We already got people coming in here chilling. I mean, this is a family feel out
I'll
here,
probably
man.
make my way over here at some point this evening.
Yeah, man.
My way back over here, I should say.
Yeah, if you ever want to catch Pete, this is probably your best option. Oh, let's get Pete back on the screen. There he is. There he is. But yeah, man, no, FSU, man, I'm excited. Maybe we'll probably do breakfast with the Canes up there in Tally. I'll be up in Tally. If anyone sees me up there, say what's up. We'll be doing some stuff
Tomorrow, I'm not going to give a spoiler because I don't know what his prediction is, but a little more confidence this week than last week?
No, I mean,
Wow. At least you can set the people up.
Look, I think I had a 3 score. I think I had 31-28 was my score. And I mean, look, I was wrong against Florida. I gave Florida. I mean, although it was
have
spooky.
this one tomorrow or Saturday is 31-28?
31-28.
Wow, man. 2 weeks in a row.
Look.
The fake confidence is showing, man.
It's not fake confidence. It's being a veteran of college football. I saw the 2001 Hurricanes. I was in attendance at that game. I was there. The 2001 Hurricanes, which was the best football team, college or pro. They're not going to beat pro teams, but I'm saying in terms of relative to their level, they're the best football team of all time. And I saw them go to Boston College against some rinky-dink Boston College team. Didn't really have anybody. Didn't have anything going on. And turnovers, weird stuff. It was a road game. It's hard. Road games are hard. First road game, we have not been down all year. I think FSU is going to jump on us. They're going to hit first. Then over time, the better team will emerge. And I think this will be a game because one of these is going to happen over the course of the year, right? One of these games is going to happen over the course of the year. I thought Florida might be it because of Lagway playing well. He didn't, so I was wrong on that. But I think one of these, and talent-wise, I don't think FSU is very good. I don't think anybody in our schedule is very good talent-wise compared to the teams that we're on the level with. You know, the teams that we're comparable with talent-wise are the teams we just talked about, the Ohio States, Oregons, etc. So I don't think any of these teams are on that level, but we've seen in college football, bad teams at home as underdogs, especially in rivalry games, can jump you. So how do you respond? I think Miami needs a game, quite frankly, where they get challenged a little bit so they could show how they deal with adversity, show how they deal. You know, people say, oh, can Carson Beck come back? Like he's never come back in 28-3 record that he has. But
crazy,
we need
man.
a game like
I
that.
get people come at me, say I'm the Canes hater. I'm gonna have another double digit win here. I've been on point with these picks, man. I don't know.
Assad says FSU sinks. You give them too much credit. I know I'm the first one to say FSU is terrible. I was the first one to say Florida was terrible. I think these teams suck. But in college football, if you've been watching as long as I have, and I know a lot of you have, bad teams will scare you once or twice in a year. That's just kind of how it goes. That's the way. These are young kids. Road games is crazy. The ball is shaped this way. Things happen. So I just think we're going to have one of those games. And I think my thought was always it is more likely that we have one of those games in one of these rivalry games against Florida and FSU than against Pitt or Virginia Tech, which just kind of are too bad this year. I think they're too bad to scare us. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think those teams on the latter half of the schedule, maybe one of those gets us just because of the way the schedule sets up week to week to week to week. We get tired. But I don't think those teams are even good enough to scare us. I think it's really going to come in this Florida, FSU, Louisville pocket. So didn't happen against Florida. I thought it would happen there with DJ Lagway. Didn't. So maybe it's this one. Either way, I think Miami has better players at every single position. I think the talent discrepancy is vast. I think Mike Norvell will never win anything at FSU because he's just not a good recruiter and he's a loser. So I think ultimately we will win the game regardless of whether it's a blowout where we just catch them early and just out-talent them and just big boy them, or a game where they jump on us early and we have to come back and respond. We're going to win. But this college football, man, things happen. Like, that's reality. That's nothing to do with how bad FSU is. Bad teams do this all the time. That's what I'm saying.
Craziness, man. 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Unbelievable. The state media, as Phil says, it's dwindling away.
Okay, listen, I keep it honest. And again, FSU stinks. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying to say FSU is good. I think there's an 8-win FSU team. Well, maybe they're 9-win because of the schedule, but they'll lose their bowl. They're nothing. They are nothing. These guys are going to be going pro in something other than football. Castellanos is going to be like a Rey Mysterio type wrestler that they'd be after his football career is done, if he wants to pursue athletics. But they can experience quarterback. It's made some plays. Road game. These things can happen. But all told, Miami's going to get it done. Carson Beck is going to go to 29-3 as a starting quarterback. I believe he'll go to 12-3 against ranked opponents. And it's all going to be good. But
they won't cover the spread, though.
My guy, Night King, my boy, says, D, FSU will not score 28. This is not college football 26 EA Sports. My man, number 8, the man who put number 8 on the map at quarterback. He knows something. Appreciate you, Night King.
Like 14-17 is what I'm thinking.
I agree with you, D. FSU's not impressive at all. Virginia quarterback 3 picks against FSU and still won the game. Yeah, they're not. Sorry, speak. Go ahead. Give your possession.
I don't know. I don't have my exact prediction yet, but I don't think they score 28. I agree with that. I don't think Miami scores a whole lot either, though. I think it'll be kind of like not what you saw in the Florida game, a little bit more than that, though.
Yeah. No, I think our offense will do better than they did. I had 31-28. I can see us scoring more, to be honest. The FSU's defense is pathetic. But they're going to be motivated, right? This is not like one difference between UF and I think if you compare UF and FSU, right? Let's compare UF and FSU, Pete. I think UF, again, I don't think their talent was very good either, quite frankly, but it was better than FSU. I feel UF just had bigger players, better coaching. They were just a better defensive team, more talented on offense, maybe too, better offensive line. But what FSU has that UF did not have, aside, number one, they're at home. That's a one big difference. UF Miami was not like a 50-50 deal. That was a major Miami home field advantage. And then number 2, they are still in it. Like FSU still thinks they can win the ACC. They still think they can go to the playoff. They still have some sort of confidence. They beat Alabama. So I think the juice on the team is a little more there in FSU's favor compared to Florida. So that's, again, why I think FSU might come out a little hotter than Florida did. The home field, the motivation, their ability to make big plays on the perimeter, the trick plays, the trickiness of their offense, the experience at quarterback. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't take any FSU player on our team as a starter. Even Deuce Robinson, he's the one that talent-wise I would say yes. But I'm rolling with CJ Daniels catching touchdowns. I'm rolling with our guys, and we'll go. No one in FSU gives me envy, right? In fact, I feel bad for them because I know they're stuck with this crappy coach for a long time. They're going to be living in the Outback Bowl or whatever bowl if they can qualify for. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm seeing when it comes to this matchup. But I like Pete. Look, you always kind of are hyping up the other team doing that, and then your prediction comes out.
I'm not happy with the other team. I'm just it's the tone that gets me sometimes. It's very dismissive. Like Deuce Robinson would start at Miami. D. I'm sorry. Like,
did he start at USC?
USC had some talent too.
That's what I'm saying. You put a big. He's a big fish in a small pond right now because if these other receivers are hot garbage. But on a real team, he'd be in the rotation.
He would bring us.
He would give us something.
He would bring us a nice piece. I don't know.
He would give us something. Now, I don't have green eyes watching him play. I think we got to deal with him. But it's not like.
And I would take Daryl Jackson in a heartbeat. He would start right now also.
He might start.
And I don't like. I understand what the production thing is and all that, but like he would start. He has a body type that's going to get him drafted with limited production.
No, his talent is sick. And he was good when he played for us. I mean, I thought he actually had a good motor when he played for us. Now, you went to play for Mike Norvell in that system, and the motor mysteriously ran cold. So do with that what you will. I will say about this FSU defense is I don't see anybody that's tough. I mean, they're tough compared to the average human. I mean, I'll go out there on the field in 1 second and I'd be tapping having to tackle Mark Fletcher. So that's saying they're not tough compared to the average human. But if you compare them to college football defenses, big-time college football defenses, I don't find this FSU defense to be particularly tough and physical. Really, we weren't like that last year, to be honest. I think when you added a Jacoby Thomas, when you added a Mo Toure, when Ruben Bain gets full strength, add Heatherman, the whole temperature and climate of that team changes and the way they play changes. And this Miami defense is just turn on the tape, physical, runs to the ball. If they can carry that on the road, which I think they will, that's a whole different energy level. FSU on defense, who is their dictator of tempo? They had that guy Rawls, a pretty good player. Earl Little's had good games, but I've also had some bad games, gotten run over. I don't know if they have that tempo setter. Their linebacker stink. That really is hey, this is the energy giver. Daryl Jackson is the body type. I get that. But I don't know who is setting the tone on FSU from a physicality standpoint, from a personality standpoint, from a tone standpoint, the way Jacoby Thomas and Mo Toure and Ruben Bain and Messidor do for Miami's defense. And quite frankly, the way a guy like Mark Fletcher, Ines Cooper do for Miami's offense. I don't know who on FSU's the butt kicker that's setting a tone. That's where I think FSU is really weak. And I think you saw that against Virginia. They were just flat as a board.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All right.
Wait, real quick. Still time. Season's rolling. I know your wardrobe. Maybe you've already worn your outfit a couple times. You want something new. You're coming to Duffy's tailgate. You're going to the game against Louisville. You want to get up to speed. Only place to go, the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Promo code. I still get people texting me for the promo code. So I'll say it nice and clear so you guys can write it down. Remember, Insight20. And that's really if you're buying online. You got to write in Insight20. If you're in the store, just say CanesInSight. They'll know exactly what it is. Either way, 20% off your first item, whether you're ordering from Kentucky or whether you're in store right across the street from the University of Miami next to the Thesis Hotel. MiamiHurricaneTeamStore.com, Miami HTS.
All right. See you guys tomorrow. Do we have a guest tomorrow? Do we have a special guest lined up tomorrow? No, I don't think we do. Just
every day is special.
Yes,
every day is special. But we'll be out there tomorrow. I'll be up in Tally, so we'll be doing that. Maybe I'll pull someone off the street there, trying to work something out. Steve-O, by the way, just an awesome breakdown. Our guy Steve-O, 365 Canes football, just did an awesome breakdown. Watched some all 22 film, so he had some cool insights. So we'll talk about that. Now we post on CanesInsight.com, 7.6 million posts and counting. By the way, shout out to Canes Connection. As always, Miami's NIL Collective. You want to get with the program, CanesConnection.com/CIS. You get a ton of discounts off your first month, but you still get all the great benefits, including Zoom calls with me, CanesConnection.com/CIS.
All right. Appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Go Canes.
Go Canes.